My God, people are too easily triggered these days. Like, don't be so triggered. The men in our lives, or whatever gender you are interested in romantically, they may give you that one person will give you a little bit friction, but the rest of the scaffolding is made by your friends. That's where you actually rub against each other and realize hard truths about yourself.
Oh, hard truth.
Sometimes what comes through as concern is just superiority. Your generation is not comfortable talking about their feelings, and the Gen Z, though, even I see Gen Z people not meeting each other to sort things out. Not you said, but you said, but you said. Just sort it out.
I think it's very like I, because there's a lot of awareness. Like, I feel this. Now, you figure.
Go live on an island if everything triggers you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Decoding Quirks. I'm your host Aditi, and today we have a really fun guest with us, the author of The Wrong Way Home, Shonali Shroff. Hi.
Hi, Aditi.
So our conversation, when we had a call before we came on the podcast, not the first time I'm meeting. So
Yeah, which became like a podcast.
Exactly.
I had to say, please ask me these questions when we meet, yes.
Exactly. It always happens. I get so excited.
You warm into it,
Yeah. So one of the things that you said on the call was, please read my book. And and I gave her a whole explanation of how my dyslexia comes in the way of reading.
Yeah.
But I'm working on that. She's like, please read my book. I don't know if I can send you a copy because I'm all sold out.
Yeah.
I went for the Delhi Lit Fest and I'm all sold out.
No, my own stock is sold out.
Yeah,
like
your
my
own
own stock is over.
Your stock.
My stock is over, yeah.
And honestly, that sentence made me so happy.
Yeah.
Just hearing the fact that, oh my God, your
Books
books
are
are
selling.
It's like, it's so happy. And then it got me thinking, how am I so happy for someone who I've just met?
I know.
An acquaintance.
Yeah.
Like some random people.
You met me at a lit fest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I so happy for you just to hear that?
How sweet.
But sometimes we have our own friends that we have in our life.
Yeah.
And if they did something this big, I don't know if we show the same kind of, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because there sometimes is an underlying of, why didn't I get that?
Yeah.
It's
human nature.
It is human nature.
Yeah.
I also feel like we are different people with different friends. So the friendships that I've had, like when we were very young, my childhood friends, I'm different with them. So for example, I might take a little bit of their bullshit and be like, oh, I don't know that she's going to be late. But if a new friend that comes into my life, I'm going to like start drawing those boundaries of, I don't like it when you're late. Please respect my time. Does that happen? Like, have you seen that in like female friendships? And
Yeah. See, firstly, my understanding of female friendship in every decade of my life has been different. There's a certain degree of, a comforting kind of taking for granted that happens when you have childhood friends or friends you went to college with, shared a dorm with. But I think that as you grow older, particularly in your 40s and you're not there yet, your friendships become more intentional. They're more negotiated. So ultimately, we are all very alert because the underlying thing is when you make a new friendship is that, I want them to like me. Now, if you like somebody, you want them to like you back.
Yeah.
The other is, but I don't want to look too needy.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be taken for granted. It's better I set the rules now so that they don't think that I'm the kind of person they can toss around. So I think we are just so involved with our egos.
Yes.
Okay? And in some sense, popular people who go out there to become really popular, who devote all their time to finding and keeping new friends, some of that is because they enjoy people, but some of that is also some kind of validation they get. That, see, I'm so likable, I'm so liked.
I fully believe this. The
Right?
extrovert part we all have some version of an extrovert.
We do, yeah.
It is about it's a social validation at the end of the day.
It is. I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think everybody wants to be liked.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to
Who
be
don't
liked?
want to be liked? But some people who have a strong sense of self are comfortable being liked by just two people. And there will be people who will say, you know what, I don't go out very much, but I do catch up with my 1 or 2 friends over the weekend. And then there's the other kind who just thrives on that interaction with other people and on being liked back. So that's there.
So for me, I feel like sometimes. So when I was asking you about we are different with different people, I could be the same extrovert.
Yeah.
But I'm so much better at like boundary setting with a new person because, like you said, you maybe it's the ego.
These are terms and conditions. It's a new thing. These are the TNC list.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because you don't want to feel that
No, I'll tell you why. Because I think with old friends, you know where you stand with them.
your loyalty tests have been passed.
Yeah, you know that they care for you in a certain manner, whatever that manner is. But I think in new friendships, you don't know how they genuinely feel about you. So you feel that that you don't want that uncertainty that did they take me for granted?
Yeah.
Or did they think that I'm that kind of a person who can wait? So it's just that. It's similarly in a marriage. If your husband makes you late, you won't be that mad at him. But if you just started dating a guy and he keeps you waiting, you are going to lose it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It's also with time that you allow certain things to slip
That
and pass.
familiarity brings comfort, brings a reassurance. So
All these are also like byproducts. You're really not worried about that you made me wait. It's just about how you respect me as a person and all of that.
it is that.
So there was this part in your book where there are two friends, Nayantara and Anjali, right? Where Nayantara, there is some form of
Frenemy?
I was gonna say not enemies, but frenemy wise.
Yeah.
What is that? Because I, for some reason, related to it.
You did?
I did. I don't have a lot of friends that way, but I have a newer friendship. Like when I say new, I want to say like
4-5 years old?
7,
Okay.
7-8 years old friendship, which I feel like there is a sense of competition. So it's not even friendship. I'll set the scene. She's a colleague. Like we work around in the same industry. We both are mental health coaches. We both wanted to, grow up, work and practice through Instagram. And mine started growing. I started helping her, giving her the exact formula. Hers started growing. And then I'm like, I gave everything.
Yeah.
I did this.
Yeah.
And yours is growing now better than me. Then I
Yeah.
push more.
Yeah.
Then I'm also telling her how to push more. And she's like, it's just like...
It's complex.
It's complex, but
Yeah.
it's also like we're one-upping each other. But
Yeah.
at the same time, when I'm up, I'm helping her come up.
So I have observed this now in my life. There are certain friends, and so this is not an indictment on you, but there are certain friends who will help you up,
Yeah.
but they don't want to see you go higher than them.
Yeah.
And so I think I said this to you yesterday, there are some bad weather friends, which is great because normally you get fair weather friends. These are bad weather friends who will be there for you because they feel sorry for where you are. They have enough compassion for you to want to help you out. They generally care for you at one level. But there's an unspoken rule in that friendship that this is the superior person.
Yeah.
Or this is there's a hierarchy in that friendship. An unspoken hierarchy. So if there is an unspoken hierarchy and that imbalance suddenly happens, it tilts. So you are now wondering, where do I stand? See, your job, your lover, boyfriend, whatever, girlfriend, all these are different pegs of life that give you a sense of who you are.
Got it.
And now, suddenly, you don't know who you are when the person you were always feeling sorry for, helping out, is bigger than you and doesn't even need you. And they've even stopped saying, thank you, I owe it to you, because they'll also reach a situation where they will. So I'll give you an example. I know somebody, not even a friend, actually a nodding acquaintance. And they approached me and they said, look, I'd love to be published. So I connected them, just like you, with everybody involved in the process. And they did get published. But when they did get published, they didn't even acknowledge the fact that I helped them, which is fine. but I guess I'm a grateful person. And I expect a slight mention even in person that thanks, you helped me, and today my book is out there and it's doing well because of you. Because I already published 2 books and I've been around as a writer. This is a new person who hasn't even been around as a journalist. So what I'm trying to get at is that I asked myself, did I need an ego massage? Actually, no. So why was I disappointed? I still don't have an answer to that.
I also actually kind of believe the same thing, that I'm a grateful person. I feel like I also operate a little bit from what I would do.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the rules of life, you can't, it's so tough to be so open with everything.
Yeah.
So the rules of life kind of operate from what it is perceived in my head.
Right.
So if I would have said thank you,
Yeah.
I kind of expect the thank you back. But
I think it's just
not
that.
getting it doesn't break my
No,
entire life.
exactly. It didn't break me. But you know, I'm that kind of a person. There's a friend of mine. She's been an important part of my writing journey.
Yeah.
And every time I have a book out, I send her one long message and I talk about it in interviews. So the other day there was this spectacular review of my novel in the Indian Express. And I shared it with her because she said, why aren't you sharing any update with me? And she doesn't live here. So I shared it with her. And I said, of course, every time I am praised, I know that somewhere, you are also responsible for the success that I'm enjoying today. And she said to me, she's lovely, she said, at this rate, I'm going to ask you to start calling me Huzur. Because you're overdoing it, okay? So every time I have a good review out, I'll send it to her saying, Huzur, one more review, okay? Because she was uncomfortable with that. So I think none of us want that, but just a mild acknowledgement is fine. But I've seen people who get ahead and then they forget, and that's fine. That's their journey. But in friends, I did a post about it on female friendships. Female friendships are not always gentle. They are just familiar. There's this assumption that, girls are also kind to each other. No. Yeah. Either it's that or it's they're so bitchy with each other.
Yeah.
There's no gray. There's no middle, right? They're just familiar. Some of them are built on history, college, youth, shared apartments, shared phases, survival mostly. You've been there for each other. Comparison exists in many friendships, like Bombay humidity. It's always present, but rarely discussed.
Yeah.
So if you go to a party and you outshine a friend who's not used to being outshined because she's always got the spotlight on her for some reason. Maybe she's very glamorous or she's very good at what she does. She's a highly accomplished doctor or singer or podcaster.
Correct.
But this time you have come in with an achievement, so the spotlight is on you. It is going to make her uncomfortable. So she may not tell you that, today I was cold to you because I didn't like you were getting the limelight, the spotlight.
Yeah.
But actually that does happen. As long as the hierarchies are clear, homeostasis holds. Someone leads, someone adjusts, someone pretends this is natural. So in a friendship where one is at a higher, position and one at a lower position, it could be wealth.
Yeah.
It could be relationship. You are the one with the happy relationship. She's the one who's in and out of boyfriends and a revolving door of love, as is with my protagonist, Nayantara. So if that changes, that imbalance happens, they're not going to like it. That sense of, but I have this which is better than her is there sometimes.
And does that also kind of become the identity of the person?
It does. That's what I'm saying. All these are little markers that define who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Concern can sound a lot like superiority, and superiority often passes as care. Babe, I'm just saying it for your good. Don't mind my saying this, so I'll tell you. There's a friend of mine. Like you said, 7 years you've known somebody. So we've known each other a while. And I remember this particular time we came back from possibly a wedding or some function. And she used to always ask me for advice on clothes.
Okay.
So she'd send me a picture, and say, how is this looking? And I said, this is great, but maybe you should do this. And she'd say, okay, can you send it to me? And, that's the best thing about girlfriends because you can
send them 70 messages and they're not going to complain.
They're not going to. And you could be going to like a chotha, okay?
And be like, what are you wearing?
What are you wearing?
Yeah.
Okay? So there's no judgment there. And this happens with the most intellectual of friends also. It's not just like a thing that flaky girls do. Everybody does this, okay? So we do this with each other. And then there's one time she rang me on a particular night where, I was wearing this lovely sari and I was feeling good. And she called me the next day and she said, "You have so many clothes. Why would you choose to look like that? I'm just saying it for your good, for your own good." Concern. It wasn't concern.
Did you know immediately?
I knew immediately. At my age, you know these things. I knew immediately. And I've now reached a stage where actually, the word that your generation uses so much, boundaries, I've started now saying that if there's more envy than there's good moments in friendship, then we are not friends. I don't want to be your friend. So distance from that person, just that.
So can you say that line again where you said about the concern being superiority?
Sometimes what comes through as concern is just superiority. They are passing off their upper status in whatever arena you are playing your friendship exists on, that they care for you. But it's not care, because care would not be like that. Unless, of course, you're looking like an idiot.
No, I get it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't go with horns on my head and a tail at my back, right? I didn't go dressed as some bunny. It wasn't a theme party. I wasn't looking bizarre.
Yeah.
I was very soberly dressed.
Yeah.
So you can definitely say, "Listen, you look lovely, but next time I think you should wear some more makeup because you're looking washed out." And you know when it is concerned.
Yeah.
When someone makes it a point to call you on a night where you've been told that you're looking very nice, it's upsetting them.
So I've also seen this a lot in friendships, is that sometimes you're saying the same thing, but in one conversation you pull the other person down, and in one you kind of empower them.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
concern would be when you empower them as well.
Concern is when you empower them, or you know it, but you know this. I think, energy speaks.
Yes.
You know when something is a put down
Yeah.
or something is a genuine feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that. I mean, your mother is likely to tell you that, "Listen, next time you do this, leave your hair like this."
Yeah.
You know that that's not a put down. You know that your mom wants to see you looking a certain way.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if it happens recurringly. So with this
Yeah.
person, this happened recurringly. At different occasions, in different contexts, it would happen.
And then you're just like this.
And then I was like, certain things you let them slide. But then you reach a stage where you're like, you are genuinely not happy for me. Whether I get success or I write an article that goes viral, you're genuinely not pleased for me.
So you spoke about bad weather friends, right? So just story as well, that I also had a friend. I knew of a friendship that was like a bad weather friend. You can only be friends with a person if you are as miserable as me or worse
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Like either we both are going through a breakup, but the moment you find love, I'm going to tell you there are 10 things wrong about it just to bring you back into that miserable space.
Yeah.
Right? So at some point, when you look back at bad weather friends, do you think that they were there in your life for a reason? Did they really help you?
No, they did help me.
Yeah.
See, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There are friends who try and pull you up, who'll give you good advice when you require it, when you're down and out. Yes, when your success or your happiness is being celebrated, they don't like to shrink themselves, so they won't be that exuberant about it. But the thing is, it's so nuanced. Friendship is so nuanced that they can be fraught, but they can also be redemptive. The same friend can also be the person who makes you laugh so much you're grateful for them. And you're like, this thing I could have only said to you.
That's so
Right? I can
true.
only be a silly goose with you. And the same person will say something terribly hurtful to you or about you. And then you'll be like, so actually there's no such thing as a perfect friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know why we start on that assumption. And so in my novel, there are two friendships. One is with her gay friend. He's not a token gay friend. I've had friendships with gay friends in my life. I know that, it's in novels these days, people will have one
Queer
character, but I had it with good reason, because those are also very different kind of very interesting friendships where you can relate with each other emotionally at a very deep level. And yet a certain part of them is the yang, yin and yang. So they are not completely like chatting with a girlfriend, certain perspective they will bring in as a man.
Oh, my
Right.
God, that's perfect. Did
It's
I just say
perfect.
it's perfect when you said not to say it?
No, it is, but that is, so I'm saying to that end, you sort of, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's a very different territory, but
You get the best of both worlds also.
I mean,
there.
you do to an
Kind of,
extent.
yeah.
So I have that, which is a very, very how do I say this? That's the kind of friendship somebody wrote in a review that Rishi is the friend we all need in our life. Okay, because he calls her out. He can see through her bullshit. He loves her for it when it is not hurting herself or someone else, but he calls her out. Okay, he is her moral compass. He will tell her, babe, this is not correct. What you're doing is not right. But her female friendship, the one she has with Anjali, goes back to college. And they've been goofy together in college. They've fallen in love with boys at the same time. They've gone through their breakups. And then their life has taken a different trajectory because Anjali chose the path of marrying a college sweetheart and having children with him. Her hands are full. She has forsaken her career at the altar of motherhood and family life. That's a choice she has made. Nayantara is a person who's gone through heartbreaks and divorce. Before the heartbreak, there were relationships before the divorce, there were relationships. Now those ended in a marriage. One marriage has now collapsed. She's been asked to leave that marriage. It's not even her own choice. But she starts to build her career in a definable manner. And I guess somewhere that is irking Anjali because we always want what we don't have. And we always know what we miss in our life. So Anjali's world has narrowed down. It's just children and schoolgate mothers and a husband who she loves too much and makes a big show off that, my relationship is so amazing and fulfilling because how else can she be superior to Anjali? At least somewhere I'm better than her. So these are stories we tell ourselves that, she has a great career.
But at least I have a great marriage.
But at least I have a great marriage. Or at least I'm a mom. These kids will be my friends. When she grows up, she'll just have
won't
nobody.
Have anybody, yeah.
So, so one thing is to accept these differences and know that your life had different paths and then try and be happy for each other. But somewhere, Anjali is supercilious about the fact that she has stability and this girl doesn't. So she also shows a lot of care and concern for her. When she's homeless and she's now shuttling between her friend's house and house hunting, Anjali is the one who says, come home for dinner. I made this food for you, I'm sending it. The driver is outside your door, open the, he's ringing the doorbell, open the door, I've sent you this. It's a weekend, come hang with us. She does that too. But she also twists the knife just a bit now and then. That, you've always made choices. Sometimes this is the price you pay for them.
My God, this sounds so like... You have to go through these things to even understand it.
You do.
Because it feels so real while you're saying it.
Yeah.
Because these are real friendships.
And no one talks about the pain and ache and heartbreak of friend letting you down or a friend not choosing you can cause.
Why do we do that? Why do we not choose the other girlfriend?
That I can't say, but the one thing about female friendships is that this is the only non-curated space. You go there as yourself, isn't it?
And you also go there and find out so many versions of yourself.
Yeah.
You have gone in thinking, I am this. Yeah. But you also realize that, I've had this thought as well. I didn't know I could be a jealous person.
Yeah.
I always thought I'm like the empowered girl. I make everybody happy.
You know what they say, that two stones, why are the pebbles in a running river so soft? They don't have any sharp edges because they rub against each other. There's friction. And I think the men in our lives, or whatever gender you are interested in romantically, they may give you that one person will give you a little bit friction. But the rest of the scaffolding is made by your friends.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where you actually rub against each other and realize hard truths about yourself.
Oh, hard truths.
But for that, you have to be self-aware.
I was just going to come to it. So I feel like I went through a lot of these things in my 20s. So I'm like mid-30s now. I went through a lot of these things in my 20s, but I didn't realize it about myself. Right? I feel like the same things are repeating now, but I'm able to catch it. I'm able to work on it.
Yeah.
Either take, responsibility, take
Yeah.
accountability,
Yeah.
say sorry, or call someone out. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I'm so sorry, I can't do this. Like, this is a
Right.
change I don't think I'm able to make right now.
Yeah.
Right? This is how I'm coming. You accept. So I don't think I did that. I didn't even think I realized it. So what you said is very right. You need to be self-aware to even realize that these things are happening to you.
Yeah.
But maybe the 40s is like,
Because
I don't give a fuck.
otherwise you're always victim. You always things that done be happening to you.
You know what? Yeah, in my 20s, I was a victim, but I also blamed myself.
Yeah.
You know, like, of course it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
You are only like that.
Yeah. That's true. But everyone goes through this.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So that churn is also so important for you to, I guess, become your own person and realize who are your people.
Yeah. There was a part in the book as well where you had mentioned that when she got divorced, when Nayanthara got divorced, she lost a lot of her friends
She did.
because they chose a more successful and
Yeah,
powerful
yeah.
side, you know.
Because it's true, right? Even between two girlfriends, if you have a falling out with somebody who has better social connections or a more happening job, you'll see that happen.
Yeah.
You'll see that happen even with a wealthier friend, not like she's giving you some of her bags or shoes or diamonds. But
Yeah.
this happens. In life, everything is about who wields more power. Right? So
Yeah.
Nayanthara, after being married to this successful man, who is an arty-farty filmmaker with legacy money, inheritance, absolute intellectual upper crust of Indian society. Now that she's no longer his wife, the same people who she had thought are her friends after being married to him, who she had encountered and met at that stage in her life, they all shrink away from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she goes through a social exile.
Yeah.
And this can happen.
Yeah.
Even in female friendships, it can happen.
I mean, this is not really a friendship. It was like an acquaintance and all of that, but it's close to my family. You could say like family friends. My mom was always asking me to get back in touch with one of our family friends. And I was just like, I don't think I can. And like every few months, she'd be like, can you please call her? You know, she's going through a really bad phase. You know, you should call her. And I'm like, I really don't think I can because every time I talk to her, she's still stuck in the past. You know, every time I speak to her, she still brings up things that have happened to, like how she was a victim to certain incidents that happened 15 years ago and 20 years. And if that hadn't happened, her life wouldn't shape up in such a miserable way and she would be happy today. Because of
She's made that her identity.
Yeah, and I was like,
She's holding on to it.
And I was like, I can't talk to somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. You know, so sometimes when I feel like I've just cut people off because they're too sad for me. Sometimes when people tell you like you've done something wrong or given you feedback, like you said, that you are ready to take it.
Yeah.
Now, what about if this feedback is questioning your intention, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, for example, if they're like, I don't like the way you spoke to me because, and then, you know that
You were trying to say this to me.
yeah, you are triggering something within me. And I'm just like,
Okay, this triggering is
it's too much.
triggering
It's too much.
can I just say that like people are too easily triggered these days. Like don't be so triggered.
I agree. And I also like
Build some resilience. Come on, bro.
I agree. I also feel like we've reached this stage in life where we can just get away with it using it as an excuse.
Yeah. Go live on an island if everything triggers you.
Also take responsibility. But now it's coming to another point where my trigger is becoming your responsibility, and now questioning your intentions, saying that now I told you once, you know it.
Yeah.
So the second time maybe you're intentionally doing this to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, my mind is blown at this point. I was like,
know.
that's a different kind of mind game, man.
But do you also think that this is now happening with people in their 30s and 20s because people are actually not physically interacting so much? Conversation, see,
Yeah.
we have grown up talking to each other. So today, if a friend said this to me, I wouldn't give up on that friendship. I would say, listen, I'm sorry if I sounded like that.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Or, for example, the same friend who did this put down that, oh, I thought there was so much room for improvement. It's how she, instead of saying, listen, I know you're good, but I think little bit tweaking we can do. And of course, I know.
And I'll help you.
And I'll help you. But first, she called to do a business together with me, where we were both going to coach. And then she wanted just me to be coached when I said no to that. Why don't you learn, do coaching with me instead? And when I said, but I do this, I'll find my way. So what I'm getting at is that had it been said to me in a different manner, I wouldn't have questioned the intention. And had I questioned also, sometimes we are the questioner, I would have said, I felt that was a put down. And if she says, listen, I'm so sorry it came off like that. But I just feel that you don't pace yourself while speaking. And I just thought I wanted to talk to you about that. It's done. I think we are, my generation is great at dialogue.
Okay.
Dialogue resolves everything.
Yeah.
Dialogue is the reason people don't give up on each other.
But sometimes you can say things when you're worked up, na? Because say na.
तो उसके बाद dialogue कर लो ना. You're worked up. You've said stuff to each other that's hurtful or harshly critical.
Yeah.
If you've been accused of being harshly critical or that person, you meet at a later date where, you know, you're calmer. And if that friendship means anything to you, you thrash things out and you say, listen, let's reboot this.
Yeah, so I actually believe in the same thing. So when you say dialogue helps everything and fixes everything, or at least works to it.
Countries do dialogues, man.
I also feel like adding time to it. So time and space before the dialogue also.
But is that happening these days?
I
Because
think
what
that-
I see is people give time and space and then they just completely back off from
there
their
are
friendship.
people who use time and space also as an excuse. Like the way Trigger was introduced into the
Yeah.
therapy world,
Yeah.
they start using it as an excuse.
Right.
The people are using time and space also as an excuse. So people are like completely like bringing it down. But when you take time, you're supposed to take time to actually think, not take time for the situation to fizzle out and not be an issue.
Actually,
people are like pushing it under the rug, being like, okay, now it's been there, done that. We don't need to talk now about it. Our friendship is back to normal.
Okay, so that's also fine. Whichever way you want to process it, I guess. Some people are uncomfortable talking about their feelings.
But
Your
no,
generation is not comfortable talking about their feelings. And the Gen Z, though, even, my God, you know, I see this. I see Gen Z people not meeting each other to sort things out. Not you said, but you said, but you said. You know, just sort it out.
I think it's very like I because there's a lot of awareness right now. And when it's I, it automatically puts a lot of responsibility on the person. Like, I feel this. Now you figure. So it's not a collaborative
So I want to
effort.
ask you, you're a therapist also, why is this happening? I mean, it astounds me that constantly putting your feelings, you know, this kind of individualistic culture, which we have completely imbibed from the West.
Yeah.
But our relationships are not like that.
Our relationships are not
We're a
like-
really old civilization. We thrive on relationships. There was a reason that unless somebody had a severe mental health issue, until recently, people, not everybody was in therapy as a part of housekeeping, right? As part of hygiene. So,
Absolutely.
because we had aunts and uncles and friends and mothers and fathers and
Yeah. But sometimes the thing is that some people got like really good support systems. And again, we're talking about a few generations before us. So if they got a really good support system, they were able to get away without like speaking to a therapist. But now some people don't. Some people got a lot of manipulative relatives and this. and that.
No. I think I understand the
That,
need for therapy now.
Okay, so you're asking
is
about
because they're
Gen-
living in a very different environment. There's the social media and there's all sort of performative behavior happening outside. So I get that. I think that this is a very different terrain from the terrain we've grown up in. So I grant therapists and therapy seekers that. What I'm getting at is that. Instead of uniting people, I see that a lot of time therapists are dividing people. They're like, oh, if she spoke like this to you, I think you need to push back. I mean, come on, relationships, that way you'll just be left. You're not an island.
You're not. Yeah, exactly.
Unless you go and become a hermit and a monk, that's different. Move to Dharamshala.
No, I agree, and I feel like we have gone too far in this entire like I.
Right?
We have to realize that we're living in a world.
That's it.
No, so the reason why this I language started coming in is because we were also grown up in this world where we didn't realize what we felt. It was like we were supposed...
You were told to feel.
Yeah.
You're
you are
told to feel.
supposed to do this. You
Yeah.
are meant to do that. As a girl, you must be good and you must be.
But we grew to. It was much worse for us.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay,
Your
how,
pressures are just different. I
Yeah.
think it's that.
So now it's just like, how do we shift the dial to what do you feel? So that has, I think, probably shifted in the last 10, 12 years ish. Now it's become too much of I. The whole reason was to be aware. So that's why I said we're too self-aware. So now, that's also trending on Instagram. Now the problem that I see right now in this situation is that EQ is really high. Everybody is very
EQ is high?
Yeah, EQ is high. Everyone's very well aware ki what's the feeling I'm
Yeah,
feeling.
EQ is high when you're not feeling just your own feelings, you're feeling for the other person also. Empathy is very low.
Okay, so basically, it's fine, but they could be understanding what you're feeling, but they're still going to stick with what they are feeling.
But because full day, if you're thinking of your own feeling only, then there's no time to think of anybody else.
So it's just like when you're so aware about something, but you have not learned how to practice it,
Yeah.
What
to do with that.
Yeah, what to do with that. You've not learned how to apply it into your life. That's the gap in the market. And that's happening. I mean, I have to blame it on Instagram, unfortunately.
It is. It's true.
Instagram is the
Instagram therapy is the worst.
It's the worst because it's
Go
one
to
of
a
the-
real therapist.
Thank you. Please come. So it's really like telling you what to feel all the time, telling
Yeah.
you how to feel, what
Oh,
to
the
feel.
best is, okay, it's making us all hate our parents because it'll say,
God.
if you feel underconfident speaking in public, or if you always feel overlooked, if whatever the hell, okay, it is because
It's a trauma response.
it's a trauma response, a childhood
response.
trauma response because your parent didn't let you feel that you could speak your truth. Because your parent, like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, it's extremely terrible. Like so many times I know that people don't
Everything
come.
you place at the door of your parent. Then what did you do with your life after you became an adult?
Thank you for saying it. I'm like, someone has to bring this up that I do a lot of inner child work, right? So a lot of inner child work kind of relates back to childhood. And like now, my own intern at one point was like, I don't think I can go any deeper. I'm going to hate my mom if I go any deeper.
Yeah.
So the whole point is that it's not about hating what she did. It's about understanding what happened so that as an adult, you can take responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think though, depending on what kind of therapist you choose, what kind of language is, so sometimes maybe I'm saying this to you in therapy, but when you go back, your perception is like, I hate my mom now, for doing
But it
this.
is happening.
It is happening.
It is happening in every teenage home. It's happening in every adult child home.
Yeah,
Our
it's a lot
kids
of-
are between Instagram and therapy, depending on who their therapist is. But I'm saying even outside of India,
They're trying
I
to
think
blame the parents.
blame
yeah.
the parent, loathe the parent. And the other thing is that, I think there's got to be a branch of Eastern psychology, okay?
True, because when I was studying, at some point when I was doing it, so I have done like a couple of my courses like twice because sometimes when you learn from someone in the West, say for example divorce,
Yeah.
right? If you take something like divorce, they will be like, oh, you have to, in an abusive marriage, divorce
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about. You have to break free from that marriage and then you need to like find your worth. But you can do that because you have like abuse shelters and like women shelters
Yes.
outside. But how do I tell an Indian woman, a Desi woman, to leave her house and then find her worth? She has to find her worth
No.
while she is there and then make herself so strong, be so empowered, be like, do I need this or do I not?
The contours of Indian family life, Indian marriages, Indian society are very different from the West.
Very different.
There's a friend of mine, she has gone and done Buddhist psychology. Buddhism and psychology.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah, like an alloy of that.
Yeah. There are a lot of fusions nowadays.
So I think that is needed because look, our whole value system is extremely different from the West.
It is.
But our children are being dealt with lessons in psychology on Instagram from the West.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing I'm noticing is a lot of kids are talking about how they've cut off their ties with their parents in the West. There are videos of that.
Oh, God.
So you're encouraging your child, the parents who raised you, who fed you in India, because parents here, by and large, are devoted parents, no matter
Yeah.
what. Okay, so unless there was abuse or extreme emotional neglect by and large. I think our parents know how to do a good job.
Yeah.
Or at least what they believe is their best.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay? So it's the
absolutely.
best of their ability. But now you're listening to this therapy speak online where people say, oh, I don't talk to my dad and I don't talk to my mom. What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that as well. I just feel like there are some people, like as you said, as an extreme case where you need to be aware of, but it's kind of getting misused and misjudged. Again, I don't know what to say. Just it is Instagram that is.
It is Instagram. I
blowing up
think
this
real
entire-
therapists will not speak like
We
real Indian
don't.
therapists because we also have context. We know where we come from,
Yeah.
right? So today, if I was doing therapy,
Yeah.
I would understand if a kid came crying to me and bitched their mother out. I'd calm them down, hear them out, and then I'll,
Yeah.
let them know that your mother is also a human being going through her own
And that's
challenges.
that's why when I was talking about the inner child thing, that we don't say that this is because of your parents.
Yeah.
This is something that could have happened to you in childhood, but now because you're an adult, you are going back and taking responsibility
Yeah.
of things that you've gone through. Because you're not going to live your entire life behaving like a victim to
Yeah,
anything.
but that's what's happening.
Yeah. And also I feel like the few people who are doing it well are also getting a bad name because
The
they're
whole
not-
industry gets a bad name.
Yeah, because you're not going out there and screaming
I
it, right?
know of a therapist who my friend's kid was going to, and they reached a situation where the therapist had spoken so poorly of the mother after meeting the mother on the side. Okay, as in that, listen, I need to
Yeah.
meet you, we need to discuss your kid. And then, but let the kid not know that we are meeting.
Oh.
Met and blamed the kid entirely to the mother, and then went and told the kid that the mother came and met me and this is what the mother said about you. And so
Very manipulative.
it was so manipulative. My poor friend was anyway going through a very personally challenging time with her own health. On top of it, she was dealing with this. So this is happening.
It is.
This is happening.
No, I mean, see, I'm not saying that the industry is
But because of
perfect.
that one bad egg, the whole basket is getting a bad.
That's what I always say. That is like there will always be a bad gym and a bad personal trainer, but it doesn't mean that physical health itself
Of
is
course.
bad for
No,
you.
you're 100%
So
right.
this is what draws us away
Yeah,
from it.
yeah.
It's like, and that bad gym and that bad personal trainer is still making money, but maybe they are good for other people.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they worked out for other people. It just didn't work out for you or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we tend to lose hope on physical health. So if you go to a bad therapist, you lose hope on mental health.
Right.
Right? And that's what I tell a lot of people, even in my discovery call, that if I'm not for you, I'm not for you. This is not a sales pitch right now.
Yeah.
I just need to make sure that I'm not messing it up for the entire industry as well. You have to go in with some integrity. Yeah.
Of course.
No, so but I get it. Like, using trigger as an excuse, using the blame game as an excuse. Like, I have said it, you make sure you don't bother me. So I have had some friendships in my life where they, because of my profession as well, they be like, you should understand what I'm going through. And that's only kept us further and further away.
Why is
because
the
I'm like-
onus on you?
Exactly. Because I'm like, you're a friend. I like you. I'm going to try and make sure the friendship is okay. I will try my best. But now I'm not going to get too close, because the moment I get close, you will start throwing things at me saying, this is you, this is your fault. I was like, so you start to keep people at a one arm's distance.
Also, I think the one good psychological profile we've all learned, also thanks to Instagram, is a narcissistic personality. Because what happens is that by and large in friendships, if you're friends with a narcissistic person, there's going to be no level of self-awareness there. There'll be gaslighting. And then you can't do anything. Then you have to just accept it, that this is how it's always going to be. And then you decide how much of yourself you want to give to it or not.
Yeah. Have you ever encountered a narcissist?
Yeah, of course, we all encountered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure like I was dating one as well. Like when I was dating him, I didn't realize that he was a narcissist. I knew that there were like 85 things wrong, but I just couldn't say it. Till one day he came up to me and he was like, do you think I'm a narcissist? And
Then it struck you.
I was like, yeah. Like, how did I not see this?
Yeah.
It was right in front of me.
Yeah.
But you constantly make excuses for other people's behaviors because you just want them in your life.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You even with friendship,
Yeah.
like you always make excuses to have that person in your life. So many people like her. why am I the one who has
Yeah.
a problem with her? Maybe the problem is me.
But on the other hand, while we are saying all these things about friendships, I mean, I've enjoyed some beautiful
Same.
friendships in my life.
Same.
And as I said, that, your husband is somebody you'll talk to X number of times a day, but for different things, there are different friends. So I love the kind of the texture and the fulfillment that my friends bring to my life. My dad said something very interesting years ago. He said, when people marry someone or they fall in love with someone, they want that person, they want to discuss books with that person, whatever their interests are. They want to watch soccer with that person. They want emotional fulfillment with that person. They want everything with that one person. And he said, I don't get it. You marry somebody and then you have friends for other things. So if you watch like cinema, you can have a friend you enjoy cinema with. Another friend who likes eating, you can be trying restaurants with them. And why should the onus of an entire person's likes have to be borne by that one person? That's what friends are for. And I've been really fortunate to have had friends like that, and even more so in my 40s, actually.
Yeah.
The kind of friendship, there's a maturity that happens.
Yeah, I can't
And
wait.
like I said, they're intentional. So you're not friends because you're thrown together in the same college or in the same peer group at work. You're friends because you're choosing each other, because you think that there is something in that person that resonates with me, and likewise, you find each other's thoughts and ideas echoing. And also, I think it's very important to have a friend who is superior to you in some regard, in any talent, or even if in no talent, just as a more evolved human being, because that inspires you to,
Yeah.
learn more, do more. I love it when there are friends who are so much better read than me,
Yeah.
or who are, so much more spiritually evolved than me, because that I talk to them and I come back feeling, oh, I must do this.
Or you just learn something about life. You
You do,
explore
but
something.
I think in your 40s, what happens, there's a big shift.
Okay.
The big shift is that, which is why it's called the midlife. And at 50, even in more so in a definable manner, you begin to realize that you don't have that much time. And because you don't have that much time, at 40 you have 30, 35 more good years to live, and at 50 only 20, 25, by and large, because
Fair.
there are always exceptions. So you begin to think that I'm hungry to be a better cook, or I'm hungry to be a better singer, or I want to understand,
Yeah.
religion or spirituality or philosophy or whatever it is that speaks to you. So it's very important to be surrounded by friends. Of course, you need friends you can shoot the breeze with. But the new friendships you make at that time, you handpick them, and they all inspire something inside you. And I found it most wonderful.
When you describe that you have different friends for different things, I believe like that was my life growing up, right? And I would always be like, okay, this is a friend I would go for a drink with. This is a friend that I would go for a movie with. This is a friend that I would travel with. And I always saw the opposite happening outside, where everybody would like go for a birthday and they would be like everyone they know. I used to be like, I'll have 4 separate birthdays because I have 4 separate groups.
Yeah.
Because I have 4 separate interests. you
Isn't
know?
that wonderful?
So I used to think I was weird.
No, it's wonderful. It gives you more room for growth.
Yeah, and then I was just
And
like,
perspectives.
No, so then I had to force myself, because obviously in your 20s, if you think you're weird, you're going to change only, na?
Yeah.
So I had to force myself to go to the other way, where I brought everybody in the same room, and it made me only really uncomfortable, because I am like different personalities with everyone. Na?
It's the same. I always say this. I say this to my kids also. Don't mix up your groups.
Yeah,
when
don't
you're
mix up
unless
your
it's a
group.
wedding,
Yeah.
avoid it, because firstly you don't end up having a good time. You're just trying to either integrate people or show up as different people in front of different groups. Exactly
it's
what
like
you
you're
said.
babysitting people, and then you're just making sure they're all together, and then your other friends are like, why are you behaving this way? But this is how I behave with you.
Yeah.
And it just was so uncomfortable, and I thought I am not good at it, only to realize that I had really understood myself when I was younger, and I was practicing it, and now I continue to do that. I have separate groups for separate things, and I don't, very rarely, if we overlap, we've all met at a random party or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not my party.
Yeah.
Like I can still
Sure.
be. So I feel like I don't mix my group, and I want to have separate things.
Self-knowledge is the greatest gift. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And as I grow older, there are so many things that I'd be mad at myself for, or so many parts of myself that I not happily accept and embrace, and now it just clicks. For example, I'm the person who'd go to a big party, and then wonder why I'm not having such a good time. Okay. I'd go and I'd be like, everyone's having such a good time. And even today it happens. People will say, come, let's do a picture, let's do a selfie, and all this is going on. And I'm like, there are days when I'm just thinking, okay, I'm done. I want to go home. It's not that I'm having a bad time, I'm having a blah time. And people around you are really enjoying. And then you're thinking, they all enjoy each other's company so much. Why is this not for me? But now I know why it's not for me. I'm an ambivert. I'm a person who likes meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
I can't do ha ha. And I'm not that ha he person.
And
But I didn't know this about myself.
Yeah.
So I used to be like, I'm the weird one.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why
You know?
I said that I have 2 separate podcasts. I have 2 separate things because I'm like, sometimes I'm this person, sometimes I'm that person. And whatever I want to do, I'll do, man. It's my life at this point. Sometimes I want to be serious, I'll be serious. Sometimes I want to crack like only dark jokes. I will do it.
Yes.
Because that's who I am. And I've also, as you said, self-awareness is like great knowledge. It's taken me a long time to realize that I'm not the weird one.
Yeah, but that's such a great feeling, right?
Oh my God. It's a feeling that it's that empowerment. You can do, it almost makes you feel like you can do anything.
When they say, be your own friend, I used to not understand what do you mean by be your own friend when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like, love your own company, be your own friend. I think be your own friend means accept yourself and try and understand yourself better.
Yeah.
And that is truly, like you said, very empowering.
Like even when you said be your own self, be your own friend, to me it always came out to you, and I'm sure you've seen this on Instagram. You know when you talk to yourself so badly,
Yeah,
but
berate yourself. Yeah.
But the same thing if you had to say to a friend, you would be so like supportive,
Yeah.
or you would say it in a much better way.
Right.
That's what I always looked at as be your own friend.
But that's also you. That's also be your own friend. Part of being your own friend.
Yeah, it's like you talk to yourself like you would talk to a really good friend.
Yeah,
you know?
instead of nitpicking.
Yeah, you would call them out if you needed to call them out, but you would also do it kindly.
But I want to ask you this, because you are a therapist. Irrespective of what kind of a childhood most people have had, why is the self-talk so harsh?
Oh.
Or is it for everybody? Are there exceptions?
But the exceptions are only the people who have worked on it. Because the subconscious is always...
Why? What about like a person who has had a set of parents who were not that critical of them, who understood child psychology, who balanced things out?
Oh, so there's no perfect parenting. Let's just say that. You could have the best of parents and you will still come out with trauma because society still exists around you. You could have had a bad tuition teacher. You could have had a bad incident on the bus. You could have had... it could be anything that shapes you.
Which is true.
You're still living in a society. So it doesn't matter if you had a great childhood. And a lot of people, when they come to me, they start this, my childhood has been great, huh? So
a disclaimer.
When they say that, that's when I know that there is something that they're hiding.
Right?
That they are hiding.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody says that. So coming back to why do we have such a negative self-talk is because our, in short, I'm going to explain it. Our beliefs and conditionings are built from the age of 0 to 7. From the age of 0 to 7, we come up with a certain amount of conditioning. Like, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, I'm good enough, I'm not so good enough. And we are told these things because we are also making errors till the time we are 7. No one's perfect.
Right. Obviously, if you're going to smack a kid...
Yeah, you're going to tell them to...
that you're being a bully and that was not nice.
Exactly. So because
that comes in, I was not nice today.
So I'm not nice, maybe I'm not good enough.
Right.
And these are translated
Or the teacher called him and gave him a kiss and said, this is a candy for you for being a good boy today.
Yes.
So then, which brings me to my next question. Everybody's been given a prize today. Everybody's being included. What's that going to do to the generation?
I think everything is a transaction. Everything.
सबको दे दो. सब first आए हैं. सबको gift दे दो.
Everything is a transaction today. Like even when we go out right now to be like something as small as which guest to bring on a podcast, who to talk to, even in a party, you have the energy to talk to like 2 or 3 people now.
Yeah.
Like I have to choose networking, also I have to choose who to. Everything is a transaction. And now when we understand this from the outside world, from like your exams and schools and whatever, we start to take this into our inside world. and bring this into like our relationships and our friendships as well. So it's about, then you go into therapy to realize, hey, some things are just for the outside and it changes slightly when it goes inside.
Yeah.
So this is where awareness comes into the picture. But
Yeah.
the problem is that we're getting too self-aware. We're not really able to do the application part.
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s, so we started therapy at like 28, 25.
Right.
So about 10 years ago, I would say both started together. Awareness and application started together. Now it's only awareness and less application. So when people are so aware, they can't apply. Like it's almost becoming tougher. So it's this generation, like the Gen Zs, are facing a much different.
So how interesting that, my generation has grown up without any therapy.
Yeah.
First, our parents were yelling at us, and now our kids. I think that for us, self-awareness has just come naturally as we've grown older. Like my awareness that I do not like small talk. Okay, my mom is the same. She lives by herself. She won't go to kitty parties. She can't do it. She doesn't play cards. And always this feeling that why am I different? Unless you give me a dance floor and I have a glass of champagne and I'll do that and come back, that's different. But I'm saying by and large, I'm not the person you want at your high tea. I'll tell you that. I'm not wanting to be at your high tea.
And still you have a podcast.
That's right. Because I cannot do small talk. And I didn't know this.
Surface level
I
conversation.
can't do surface level. I can say, hey babe, how are you? Looking good, looking fat, looking thin.
Yeah.
Where were you this Christmas? Oh, nice.
Also in a green room when you're having a conversation, it was first line only was a deep, like, what's up? Tell me.
Yeah.
Like, it was a deep talk. It
Right.
wasn't like-
So I just can't. And also, and it becomes almost like, looks like bad manners, like battamizi, because if I have work from somebody and I call them, okay, supposing I want to invite you to something, to a podcast, or I need a favor of you. I'm not going to call you and chit chat with you to warm you into the conversation. Say, so how are you? How was your day? Yeah, I saw the podcast. Very nice. Really enjoyed it. Oh, okay. And by the way, I need a favor. I can't do that. I'm going to go say, hi, how are you? I'm going to make it really quick. This is what I want. And I'm just realizing that this is also because I have ADD, but it is very liberating to know who you are and why you do what you do. I think that's the greatest gift you can give to yourself, and that only time can teach you. Like you said, if you become too self-aware too early on in therapy, then you're not going through life. You're going through labels.
Yes.
Now I'm being this.
Exactly.
Now I'm being that.
Exactly.
Now I'm being this.
Even when I get like 20-year-olds coming to me and be like, should I get the test done? I'm like, no. Wait for some time.
Psychometric. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, wait. You probably do not want a label immediately. Let's do the work. First, let's do the work.
Exactly.
If the work completely fails,
There's
let's...
a book called Do the Work, which is not bad. I did it, but it felt like too much work.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Let's just first do the work. Like, please don't put labels on yourself. But when you said the whole surface level conversation, it triggered this thought within me that when I was a kid, I would... and this is the last, I think we have time.
Yeah, I know. You'll have to edit hard.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I would pick up the phone at home and people would always go back and tell my mom that she's really rude. Because I'd be like, hello, who's this? So...
Get to the point.
Yeah, just like, who's this? So I wasn't kind, hi. Oh, who's on the line? Okay,
Right.
my mom's busy, she's out. I would just be like, who's this? And they would be like, oh, she's very rude, very rude, very rude. And somewhere that also stuck with me, which is a whole other problem. I remember being called out by someone. I had messaged her, some astrologer or something like that. I needed to connect her to someone. I messaged her saying that, hey, whatever, and the sentence. She replied back after 2 days, firstly, which is apparently not rude. She replied after 2 days saying, I'm not your service helpline. All you can do is at least check in. Can you start with a hi, how are you?
Oh, God.
And I was just like...
But do you know her?
Yeah. And like, no, I mean, like, knew of her.
Yeah, I can't do I have you because it's fake.
Yeah, I'm just like, it doesn't come from within. Now I have to go back and consciously edit conversations that I send on WhatsApp to add a how are you or something like that to make
That sounds so fake.
So yeah, it is. And it's just, it is... I can't do it. I can't do surface level as well. I have to get to the point. But when I get to the point completely, I'm just considered rude. And as I said, like the rude part, though, is for another podcast. It's too long a conversation.
Yeah.
It's stuck with my entire 20s and that label and getting I can't. So it's like, just I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to just edit this WhatsApp text and
Yeah.
add a how are you?
Yeah. I think we can end on that.
Yeah.
note.
Anyways, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This lovely conversation.
Yeah, I
Thank
enjoyed it myself.
Thank you. And thank you. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to share our links and see you at the next one.